G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza and I'm an artist. And sometimes...
You're not an artist. I'm an artist.
That's actually the terrible attitude I wanted to talk to you about. Because being an artist doesn't require some sort of magical, ineffable qualification.
Artist is an exclusive title that not everyone is allowed. Not just anyone can call themselves an artist.
If you want it and you work for it, you can consider yourself an artist. If you feel what you're creating is art and you're committed and passionate, then don't be afraid to call yourself an artist.
Digital art isn't art. Comic books aren't art. Manga and anime aren't art. And graffiti most certainly is not art.
Just because you don't like a medium or a genre, that doesn't mean you have the right to discount it as a means of artistic expression. My wife is a teacher, and once in the school that she was working at a while ago, there was a kid who was struggling through his learning and his studies in general, and he really wanted to be a graffiti artist, and he considered himself a graffiti artist, and the art teacher refused to have anything to do with that, even though encouraging and cultivating that interest could have helped him develop and refine his interests, or even, at the bare minimum, create a positive outlet for someone to express themselves. In fact, I personally had a teacher in high school who actually tried to discourage and dissuade me from drawing cartoon characters and comic book characters. Joke's on you, because it's 10 years later, and I'm still drawing cartoon characters and comic book characters, and I'm happier than ever.
Digital art requires no talent. Traditional art is the only pure form of art.
There are huge benefits to traditional art. It's tangible, it's tactile. There's nothing quite like the smell of oil on canvas or the feeling of a pencil in your hands or the ability to hold and look at a canvas with depth in its layers and its colors and the way it's created. But there are also benefits to digital art. It's immediate, it's hugely versatile. You don't need to wait for things to dry. You can immediately change hues and saturations. You can warp and distort. You can apply layers and various effects, and you can then manipulate it and throw it into other mediums like video. You can use it in a high resolution for advertising or low resolution for pamphlets and flyers and business cards. Neither one is better than the other. They each have their advantages and disadvantages, and if you completely disregard one out of hand, you're kind of cutting out your own legs from underneath you.
You need thick skin to be an artist. If you can't handle my criticisms, then you certainly aren't cut out to be an artist.
It's true that to survive in a creative industry, you need some sort of resilience and thick skin, but the reality is we all start at square one. And I'm sure each of us can think of a handful of people who have a nice singing voice or could create interesting art with their hands who don't use those potential abilities or gifts because when they were learning, someone pushed them over and said, not good enough. And that's really unfortunate. We're all in the same boat. We all start in the same way. And to help someone actually realize their ability to have thick skin and protect their value as an artist, we first need to sort of show them their value as an artist. And thick skin is something that is grown and cultivated, not something that you just have or you don't.
To be an artist and to be truly creative, you have to be poor and suffering. Commercial success is selling out.
Making money doesn't make you a sellout, and being poor doesn't make you any better. Making a living out of art is really difficult to do, and if you can manage to do it, you should be really proud of it and not feel like it cheapens you. Yes, historically there are artists who were poor and suffering and were only appreciated well after their lifetime, case in point Van Gogh. But some of the artists we look back at today as the pinnacle of Renaissance and medieval art, such as Shakespeare and Mozart and Michelangelo, were commercial artists and were mainstream and very successful. It's also interesting to note that usually when there's an artist who's critical of another artist's commercial success, it's usually because that artist hasn't achieved commercial success themselves.
If you draw from references or you copy and trace, you're certainly not good enough.
Using references and copying and tracing is how we learn. We're applying these lessons to our brain for it to remember and understand how these forms work. For example, the human figure. To understand how that anatomy is put together and how all of the intricacies of the organic human form are to be depicted in different angles and in various ways is really difficult to do, especially if you haven't got references and you're trying to do it on your own without having learnt it. We all learn from the start, and that start is often through copying and tracing, and it's a great place to start. Think of copying and tracing like training wheels on a bicycle. You're not going to ride with them on your bike the rest of your life. You're going to outgrow them, but it's a really great place to start and find stability and understand how things work so that when you take your training wheels off, you've had enough help with your copying and tracing or your training wheels so that when you take them off, you know how to go about it. And you might be a little bit shaky at first, but in the end, you find stability. And that stability is a lot easier to get to if you have a little help to begin with.
To be an artist, you have to have studied at art school, and not just any art school, but something prestigious. I, for one, studied at the Academy of blah blah blah.
Art colleges and universities are amazingly valuable and a huge asset to the artistic community for educating and empowering artists. But on the flip side, not all artists have access to such forms of education. Furthermore, the traditional academic way of learning also isn't applicable to everyone as well. In fact, sometimes that form of learning could stifle and box in some people who just learn in a different way or have different ways of developing. There are some people for whom the traditional academic route of education is ideal and substantially beneficial. And there are also people who are better at progressing and learning and developing in different ways. And both are very valid ways of developing as artists.
You use cheap, no-name brand pencils and markers. Quaint. You're obviously not a real artist.
You don't need expensive equipment in either learning or commercially succeeding in art. Of course, the more tools we have in our tool belt, the better, because it does free us up expressively and creatively, but that does not mean you need to have a whole bunch of expensive equipment to start learning.
You have to be born with talent to be an artist. It's innate. No matter how hard you try, you'll never be as good as me.
You know, it's true that some people are more naturally gifted in certain areas than other people. They don't have to work as hard for it. But that doesn't mean that they are more capable or more deserving of success than anyone else. In fact, in many cases that I've seen and heard of, there are people who have these natural gifts who actually don't learn to work for it or study or develop their skills because it's too easy and it just happens naturally. Whereas on the flip side, there are a lot of people who don't have it naturally, who really want it, who through their efforts learn how to cultivate those skills and in the end are led to a more fruitful career or have attained more positive attributes and attitudes through that journey. It's also never too late to start. I get contacted by people all the time who say, I'm 35 or I'm 45 or even I'm 60. Is it too late for me to start learning or even become a professional? And the reality is no, it's not. There are so many stories of people who started in their 40s and beyond who have become huge commercial successes. And at the end of the day, it's not even just about commercial success. It's about something you want to do, you need to do to express yourself that is attainable through work and application.
You should just give up. I'm quite simply a better artist than you.
I believe that there is no room for pretentiousness and elitism and exclusivity in any artistic community, because artistic communities survive and depend on creative potential, and those things do nothing but destroy creative potential. At the end of the day, we are all in the same boat. We all have one thing in common, and that is that we are artists. Whether we're a beginner who's struggling and fighting to comprehend the very basic fundamentals of our craft, or whether we're an extremely successful and influential artist making a great success off of our craft. We're all in the same boat and we all start in the same place, and it's hugely important that not only do we embrace the things that make us different, but we enjoy the things that bring us together and make us the same. Thanks for watching this video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. And I also want to take a quick moment to thank the community here on Draw with Jazza, because if there's something I've noticed from the very beginning that's been consistent all the way through, it's that you guys have really made this a positive place for everyone. I've always noticed and been really proud of how incredibly inclusive and supportive everyone has been on this channel, and I want to thank you for making this a positive place, and I look forward to continuing to make this a positive place for all of us as well, as best I can with your help. I love you guys, thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.
I can't believe you could stand to watch such mediocre drivel. If Jazza was here, he'd ask you to subscribe if you wanted to see more weekly videos. Not that you could bear it. Of course, he does have more content, which you can see there on the right. All ridiculous. And of course, if you really liked his stuff, you could support his work by getting something from his silly little shop. Such a sellout. You're not really an artist unless you're starving to death. Oh, I'm sure he also would say that this channel's sponsored by Newgrounds.com, an artistic community. Don't make me laugh. Anyway, I've had enough of this place. It's depressing me. I'm gonna go create works of art and congratulate myself.